Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Chairman, before we rose, I said that I was going to be reading a short part of Mr. Firefighter Badillo's statement into the record so that everybody understands the questions that then follow. And I didn't want to read it to him in his presence for reasons that were obvious. Can I just do that now then?
Yes, please do.
People have settled down. He says, I was stopped by a lady, this is on page 5 of 13, I was stopped by a lady who told me that her little sister was up on the 20th floor in flat 176. She said that her sister was 12 years old and called Jessica, and that she was in the flat alone. The lady asked me if she could go up with me to get her. She was in her late teens, Hispanic looking, and had black hair. She was slim and about 5'4" tall. She looked very distressed, panicked and anxious. I told her not to worry, and that I would go and get Jessica on my own, as I didn't want to endanger her. She then gave me the keys to the flat. I decided that the quickest way to go and get Jessica would be to get in the lift, and that I would be able to get to the 20th floor, bring her down, and then continue with what I was doing. I had no idea what was going on outside, and didn't think that Jessica or myself would be in any immediate danger. I just thought that the fire was on a couple of the lower floors and not a raging inferno. I just wanted to go and get the little girl out of the flat as she was alone. Normal procedure would be to go with someone and not go above the fire floor unless it was a smoke-filled building and necessary to evacuate people. However, I risk-assessed the situation and did not think that I was in danger. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, as there was so much going on. The radio was busy, and by the time I had found someone to tell, I could have gotten the girl out. I also thought that I would be told no, but I was worried for the girl's safety. I've read that into the record. It's now available on the transcript if anyone wants to read it. It's also available in the witness statement that will be on the website if anybody wants to go back to that evidence. It's now in, and I'm going to proceed then with questions for Firefighter Badillo. So if he could be please brought back in.
Before you do, I'm just wondering whether any part of the next paragraph might be read.
I think I think I'll ask him about that.
All right.
I think that's going to be much less distressing for him.
All right, yes, well then, shall we ask him in, please? All right, Mr. Badillo, you
Yes.
all right to carry on?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Firefighter Badillo, before we rose, I had asked you to look at a part of your statement about the conversation you had with a lady about a little girl on the 20th floor. We've looked at what you said in your statement. We're not going to go back to it with you here, but I've just got some questions I want to ask you about it. At the time you had a conversation with a lady in the main entrance, did you know what the dangers were higher up in the building?
No.
Did you know which floor the lady you spoke to had come from?
She came from outside.
She came from outside. Did she say to you which floor she'd come from?
She came from outside. She didn't come from inside the tower.
I see. And did she give you any kind of indication? Did she tell you what the conditions were like higher up in the tower?
No.
Okay. Did you know the lady personally
I've got to know her personally.
since the fire?
Yes.
Yes. And did the lady give you anything?
Yeah, some keys to the flat to 176.
She said, did she say 176?
Yes.
Did she say which floor it was?
Yes.
And what did you do next?
I decided to go up and try and get to the 20th floor to get a little sister.
And how did you, what means of transport did you take?
The quickest route I thought was possible, which was jumping in the lift.
Right. And I think we know from your statement that you didn't tell anybody you were going up there. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you weren't wearing breathing apparatus either, were you?
No.
Did you take any equipment with you?
No.
So no water?
No.
No breathing apparatus, no water. What did you imagine that the conditions would be like on the 20th floor?
I still believe the fire was just on the 4th, 5th and 6th floor.
Okay. So no one had told you by that stage that it was at higher floors?
No.
Was there any reason why... Sorry, let me put this in a different way. Did you think about whether it might be sensible to go up with a buddy?
At the time, no. I saw the distress on the lady's face and I just thought I'd get up there as quick as I can, get the little girl down and then carry on with what I'm doing.
Right. And so you thought, I think you've just said that you thought the fire was on the 4th, 5th and 6th floors. Did you have any thoughts about why it would be necessary to evacuate somebody so many floors higher up in the building, the 20th floor?
Only from what her older sister told me.
And what did the girl's older sister tell you about why it was necessary to fetch the little girl from the 20th floor?
Because she was on her own and there was obviously a fire in the tower.
I see. And did you have any thoughts about how for that little girl stay put might have been the best advice or not the best advice? Did you have any thoughts one way or the other about that?
No, I just I didn't think about that, no. I just wanted to go up and get her.
Now,
It's a little 12-year-old girl on her own, and, you know, just wanted to go and get her out.
yeah. Now, we know you got into the lift, and I'm not going to show you... we do have a picture of you getting into the lift, I think, at 1:27:39, allowing for the adjustment. I take it from me that is the photograph. Unless you want to see... Are you happy to see a photograph?
It's fine, yeah.
Okay. Can he please be shown CCTV, which is tab 9 in the CCTV bundle, and it's INQ 50103. And that is a photograph of what we believe to be you, firefighter Badillo, going into the lift at about that time. Can you confirm that that's you, do you think?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. And you say in your statement that the lift, you having got into it, stopped at the 15th floor. Is that right?
That's correct.
What happened next after it stopped?
The doors opened and a big rush of black smoke filled the lift.
A rush of black smoke filled the lift. And what did you make of that? What did you think of that?
That I'm in trouble here.
Your first thought was, I'm in trouble here.
Yes.
What did you do immediately after having had that thought?
Tried to find my way out.
So what did you do?
Felt around, held my breath and walked forwards to where I thought the door was to the lobby, to the stairwell.
Right. So you got out of the lift.
Yes.
Could you not, I was going to say, exploring that, was there an option to shut the lift and go back down again in the lift?
No, because the lift filled with black smoke, so I wouldn't have been able to breathe in the lift.
No, I see. And apart from thoughts about getting out of there, did you have any thoughts at all about the extent of fire and smoke spread in the building at that point?
At that moment when
you were confronted with this wall of black smoke coming into the lift and you got out of the lift, did you have any thoughts about the extent of the smoke and fire spread in the building?
At that exact moment when I can't breathe and I can't see and no, not until I escaped out of that lobby.
No. And I know this is a slightly unrealistic question to ask, being confronted with that amount of smoke, but did you have any thoughts about what the smoke and fire spread might be like on the 20th floor, which is where you were going?
That didn't enter my thoughts at the time, no.
No. And I think in your statement, to summarise it, you say that you found your way back into the stairwell and you ran back downstairs. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you see any firefighters on your way down?
I don't believe I did until I got down quite low to the Bridgehead.
What were the conditions like in the stairwell when you got into the stairwell at the 15th floor level?
I believe it was just some light wispy smoke. It was smoky, but not like it was in the lobby.
Right. Was it breathable air?
Yes.
It was. And on your passage away, or your route down the stairs from the 15th floor, did the air get better or worse, or did it stay the same?
I don't really remember. I just remember getting into the stairwell, the relief, and then thinking I need to go and get my breathing apparatus so I can get back up and get Jessica.
How long do you think, just guess, estimate, I prefer to use the word estimate, do you think it took you to run down the stairs from the 15th floor to the Bridgehead?
I don't know.
I don't know. Did you encounter any other occupants of the building on your way down?
I didn't know.
You didn't?
I don't believe so, no.
When you got to the Bridgehead, did you speak to anybody?
I can't remember.
Okay, I think you can go back into your statement and go to page 6, at the top of the page, in the third line. You say, when I got to the Bridgehead, I saw Alex and said that the 15th was alight. I continued walking and out on the walkway. Doing the best you can with your memory, did you say anything else to Alex?
I don't even remember saying that. I can't actually even remember writing that. Or,
Right, okay.
It's all there's a few blanks from that period. It's
okay.
Yeah.
So seeing this in your witness statement,
Yeah, it does.
would you like to correct it?
No, it does bring back a memory that I did speak to Alex.
Yeah. And can you remember, having brought back this memory, what you said to him?
I think it was that, and then it was literally on passing.
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry to try to pick this apart, but when you say the 15th was a light, were your thoughts at the time that there wasn't just smoke on the 15th floor, but there was actually fire on the 15th floor?
I can't be certain of
Okay.
if I said it was a light or if it's full of smoke.
Okay.
I might have even said it was the 15th is compromised. I don't really know.
But did you say 50? Do you remember telling him 15th?
Yes.
Okay. During that conversation with Alex St Aubin, did he pass, or did you see or hear him pass the information you had given him onto anybody else?
I didn't. I literally sort of shouted to him in passing and then carried on running to outside.
Do you remember who else was at the Bridgehead with him when you were having that conversation with him, or when you shouted at him?
I don't know.
And it's difficult to reconstruct these things, looking back
Yeah.
on it, doing the best you can with your memory, but doing the best you can. Did you have any thoughts at the time about whether the compartmentation of the tower was holding up or whether it had failed?
At the time, I thought something's not right here. I didn't think about compartmentation. I was thinking about going to rescue a little girl. That wasn't in my thoughts, no.
I think you've given us a pretty clear picture of the exchange between you and Alex de St Aubin. But did Alex de St Aubin say anything to you?
I don't remember, sorry.
Did he say to you, "What are you doing on the 15th floor"? Did he say that?
No.
Do you recall watch manager O'Keefe talking to you at that,
Yes.
at that time? What did he say?
Not much. He literally saw me and sort of called me. Just shouted Dave to beckon me over, and I told him I was in the middle of doing something else.
Okay. Yes. Was he, watch manager O'Keefe, at the Bridgehead at that point?
I believe he was on the walkway just above the lobby area.
Right. Was he moving in a direction or was he standing there?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just remember him being on the glass walkway just above the lobby area.
Okay. And you said you were doing something else. Did you tell him what you were doing?
No.
Did he ask you?
No.
Did you tell him about what you'd seen on the 15th floor?
I don't think so.
You got back, I think you got back down to the lobby next. Is that right?
Yes.
What were the conditions like in the lobby when you got down to the lobby?
As I can remember, it was clear, I believe.
And did you see the lady who told you about flat 176 and given you the keys?
No.
In your statement, I think you say, in the last part of the first paragraph on page 6, I was thinking that I needed to get back up to look for Jessica as the fire was looking more dangerous. Would it be right to say that you were on a personal rescue mission?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you think that Jessica was unsafe?
After I'd been in the 15th floor lobby, yes. And even more so when I went outside.
Did you share your thoughts about her safety with anybody else?
At that stage?
Yes.
No.
Can I ask a delicate question? Do you know why you didn't share your thoughts with anybody else about Jessica's safety at that point?
At that stage, I was going to get my BA set to perform the rescue myself with any other firefighter that I could find, and that was my thoughts at the time.
Did you have any thoughts about the safety of any other residents in the building based on what you'd seen about the smoke on the 15th floor?
Yes.
You did? Did you share those thoughts with anybody?
Not at the time, no.
No.
Once I got outside, I did.
You did? Once you got outside? Who did you speak to once you got outside about that?
I saw my watch manager Dowden, on the corner of the tower. As I approached him, I looked up to the tower, and one whole side of the building was alight. And I approached him. I believe I told him where I'd been, and looking at the side of the building, I asked him, because I'd been in the tower the whole time. I didn't know how many machines were there. So I asked him if he had made them up, meaning had he got more firefighters and more fire engines here to the job.
And what did he say?
He said he had just made pumps 20.
Did you respond?
Yeah, I told him that we're going to need more people.
Did he respond to that?
At the time, he was doing a lot of different things. I could see the look in his face, and he was half running off at the time, and he pointed to the machine and said, "Go on then."
And what did you do?
I ran to the machine and I made pumps 25.
You made pumps 25. Which machine? Do you remember?
Golf 271, North Kensington's pump ladder.
And during that conversation, you say you believed you told him about the conditions on the 15th floor. Did you think at the time that Mike Dowden had heard your message and understood it?
Yes.
What made you think that?
The fact that he allowed me to, or the fact that he pointed to the machine and said, "Go on then," after I'd explained where I'd been.
I see. So did you assume that, having given him the message about the 15th floor conditions, he would do something about it?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. Let me try and get at this a different way. You went off to make pumps 25 from the incident command pump G271, having given him the information about the conditions on the 15th floor. Is that right?
Yes.
And what did you think at that time he, if anything, was going to do about the conditions on the 15th floor that you had told him about?
At the time, I had quite a lot of thoughts in my head. I just come out of a smoke-filled room. I've run down the stairs, and this was the first time I'd seen the outside of the tower. And it was a quick conversation, just telling him whatever he had told me, however many fire engines were there, I would have said we needed more. And then that was my thoughts, and then the rest of my thoughts were to go and get Jessica.
In your statement at page 6, you describe what you saw, and you say in the second line, I then looked up at the tower and saw that the fire was now 3/4 of the way up the building. Do you feel able to tell us about what you saw, casting your mind back?
Yeah, the fire was seemed to be following paths. It was going up, it was going sideways. It was It was like it was following, like I said in my statement, it was like someone had poured petrol down the side of the building and it was following the paths of the petrol. And it was fizzing. It had this fizzing, like I said at the time, it was like a sparkler sound. It was really a fizzing, something I've not really seen before. Yeah. Well, I've definitely not seen before.
And you say it was moving. We say it was 3/4 of the way up the building. Was it moving? Was it progressing?
As I remember, yes.
At what sort of speed was it progressing? Do you remember?
No.
What was your reaction?
A shock. Yeah, just shock and horror, and it was nothing I'd ever seen before.
You then, halfway down page 6, say, I wondered how we were going to stop the fire, and that we would have to work hard to do so as it was getting out of control. Did you have a conversation with anybody about those thoughts, how you were going to stop the fire and your view that it was getting out of control? Did you share that with anybody?
My thoughts at that time was to go back up and get Jessica.
Okay. And having made, well, let me just get this clear. You were the one who I think sent the message, make pumps 25, from G271.
Correct.
And what did you think the plan was to do with all those pumps when they arrived?
At the time, get as many people there to get as many people out as we could.
So your thoughts were on evacuation, is that right?
Yes.
And how, okay, just following that up, how did you think you were going to get everybody out of that building?
At the time,
yes.
Like I said, I was thinking about getting Jessica out and making pumps 25 was getting as many people there as we can to get everybody out.
To get everybody out, okay. Mr. Badillo, would you like a break?
No, I'm fine.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay, we can carry on. As soon as you want a break,
thank you.
We can do that. So your thoughts were to get everybody out. Did you share those thoughts with Mike Dowden?
No.
Did you share them with anybody?
No. Not at the time, no.
No, okay. In your conversation about the 15th floor with Mike Dowden, did you tell him about Jessica in particular?
I don't think I did.
You don't think you did? And then you say, and we can summarise, I think, what you say in your statement, you collected your BA and then made your way back to the tower. So you collected your BA from G271, was it?
Yes.
Did you take any other equipment?
No.
Okay. And then you say, excuse me, you say towards the bottom of page 6 of your statement, I then put on my BA kit and made my way back into the tower, and as I got into the lobby, I met a firefighter from Paddington. I explained what I knew about Jessica and said that I needed someone to go up with me, and he said he would assist. Do you remember who that firefighter from Paddington was?
His name's Jim, but...
Jim?
Yes, it's Wolf and something.
Wolfenden?
Wolfenden, it could be, yes.
Okay. So James, I think James Wolfenden is a name we
Okay.
know. All right. And you say in the next sentence, well, you say in that sentence, I explain what I knew about Jessica. What did you tell him? Do you remember?
Just that she was on the 20th floor, and I was going up to get her, and could he come with me?
Did you tell him about the conditions that you had encountered on the 15th floor?
I might have told him that I'd already been to the 15th.
Was he in BA?
He had a BA set on his back.
Right. And then you say, when we got to the Bridgehead, just looking at the last paragraph on that page in your statement, when we got to the Bridgehead, we bypassed the queue to BA control and saw Chris Secret and Chris Dorgu. Just pausing there, do you remember what they were doing?
They were at BA entry control, waiting to be committed.
And were they near the front of the queue, or?
Yes.
Right. And at that point, do you remember who was running the BA entry control?
I believe Alex was. Can't remember who was with him.
And by that point, who was in charge of the Bridgehead? Do you remember?
No.
Okay. Could you describe what it was like at the Bridgehead at that point, in terms of people, crowds?
At that time, I just remember a queue of BA wearers waiting to get their instructions to go up into the tower.
Okay. Can you, doing the best you can with your memory, just give us a picture of that? You've got the BA entry boards, and they're
Yes.
on the landing in the stairway, I think, at level 2. Is that right? Not in the lobby.
I believe the BA people were actually on the raised level of the lobby, and that was sort of a holding place. What I remember, because I remember passing a lot of them as I went up the first set of steps.
Okay. I was going to ask you. So where did so presumably the BA wearers formed an orderly queue, did they?
As orderly as you can in a tower in Inferno, yeah.
Yes. And where did the queue? How did the queue go? Did it extend down the stairs up to the second floor landing in the stairs, or?
I believe so.
Okay. So to join the back of the queue, you'd have to come up the stairs, would you, and then stand at the back of the queue, and then as the queue progressed, you'd move up the stairs and then go through BA control.
That's, I believe, how it was working, yeah.
And then go on up the stairs above the level 2 landing.
Up to the Bridgehead on level 2, yes.
Yes, and then once you were committed from the Bridgehead on level 2, you'd then go up the stairs above level 2 and into the building.
You go where your tasks to go.
Sure. And at that time, what were the conditions like in terms of the air quality at the Bridgehead at that point?
From what I can remember, that it was still clear.
Still clear. And in terms of the lighting in the stairwell, what was that like?
In the Bridgehead,
Yes,
I remember it being clear, you could see.
you could see. And the light was electric light, was there?
Can't remember.
And were the stairwell electric lights on?
There was, in the stairwell, there were these oval lights, which were, I remember them being above the number for the floor.
Yes. Now that's interesting. They were above the number of the floor. Did they
I believe
allow
so.
the number of the floor to be shown clearly?
To start with,
To start with,
until the stairwell filled with smoke.
till the stairwell filled with smoke. Okay.
They were on the way up.
And you met, as you say, crew manager Secret and firefighter Dorgu at the Bridgehead. And you bypassed the queue, and then you say at the very bottom of page 6 in your statement, a line up from the bottom. You say, I briefed them, and they said they would go up with me instead of the firefighter from Paddington. When you say, I briefed them, do you remember what you told them?
What I mean by that is they've probably seen me coming up the stairs, getting ready to go and do something, and they've asked me, because they're my crew, what are you doing, Dave? Where are you going? And I've told them, and they said, we're going with you.
Okay. Let's just break this down a little bit. First of all, did you have a discussion with them about what you'd seen on the 15th floor on your trip into the tower before this time?
I can't remember if I did.
Okay. And did you tell them about where you were going?
Yes.
Can you remember what you told them?
That there's a girl trapped on the 20th floor. I've got the keys to her flat, and I need to go and get her. Flat 176.
Okay. Did you have a discussion with either of them, or both of them, about what you thought the conditions up there might be like?
I don't remember.
Now, I'm going to show you your tally out time in a moment, just to put a time fix on this for you and for crew manager Secret and for firefighter Dorgu. Before I do, can I ask you this? Could you see at the Bridgehead anybody writing things on the wall?
I didn't see anyone at that stage, no.
Did you see or hear of anybody at the Bridgehead receiving fire survival guidance call information?
Not at that. No, I didn't. No.
Did you see or hear anybody at the Bridgehead talking about fire survival guidance information that they were getting?
No.
Can I ask you, please, to go to this is tab 1 of the bundle. It's the BA. It's a BA telemetry spreadsheet, and it's NFB quadruple 03115. And let's just have that up on the screen. Now, Mr. Badillo, I should just tell you what this rather frightening-looking document is. It was produced recently by the London Fire
I've seen it.
You have? Right. I should have asked you that. Okay. Good. So can I then just look at it with you and draw your attention through the documents manager to the first first three entries in the second chunk under BA timeline 2, and you'll see in the light blue your name, Badillo David, Secret Christopher, Dorgu Christopher. You see that?
Yes.
And you've been banded together in the light blue because you were a trio, if I can put it that way. And if you go across the page to tally out, the computer data has you tallying out at 1:33:33, and Secret at 1:34:24. I'm sorry, 1:35:57, and Dorgu at 1:35:01. Do those times there roughly correspond with your memory of the events on the night?
I didn't have a clue about any kind of time on that night.
Okay. And just so we don't have to come back to this document again, but just to give you a fix on where we are in terms of what this data shows in timing terms, if you go across the page, you'll see that tally in to bodyguard for you is recorded at 01:58:15. So you've been up in the tower? Some 25 minutes or so under BA. Would that be about right?
The LFB operational response report that they brought out also shows me on the 7th floor at 2 o'clock.
I know it does, and that's, I think, something I...
Which I believe I was.
You were?
Yes.
Okay. So you have...
So I don't believe that's correct.
Okay, I was going to come back to that later on, but perhaps we can deal with that now. If you go to the operational response report, let's just have it there for 2 o'clock. It's page 89. Page 89. I just want to get a fix on this. It says there 2 o'clock, or roughly 2 o'clock, which is why it's in italics. At around this time, firefighter Murphy from B1810 meets firefighter Badillo from B18-5 on the 7th floor. Firefighter Murphy says it's difficult to identify floor numbers, so firefighter Badillo shows him where they are located, but acknowledges the difficulty. And then there's something about reduced breathing rate for both wearers consistent with these actions. So you think that's correct, do you?
I do.
And why do you think that's correct?
Because that happened.
Because that happened. Did it happen around that time?
Sorry, I know that happened, but I don't. Like I said before, I don't know what time it was.
Got it. Right. Okay. Well, I'll come back to the happenings in a minute. If you go to the top of page 7 of your statement, you say, I don't know where the guy from Paddington went, but the three of us went and spoke to BA Control and informed them what we were doing. The information was logged onto the BA board, what floor we were going to, the fact that we were completing a rescue, and that Chris Dorgu was on comms. I think I've asked you this question, but I think you don't know the answer, but who was manning the entry control at that time?
I know the firefighter Decent Orbin was on the board. I don't know who was in charge of.
Okay. And when you say you spoke to BA Control, was it Alex de St Aubin that you think you spoke to?
I believe that was the case, yes.
What did you tell them?
That we were going up to the 20th floor to perform to get a girl, and we had the keys, and
you did.
That was the task we was.
Who did the talking? Did you do the talking?
Yes.
Okay. So you told Alex de St Aubin that you were going to the 20th floor, and that you had the keys. Did you tell him the flat number you were going to?
Yes.
Did he record that anywhere?
I believe so. Yes.
Where did he record that?
On the BA board.
On the BA board. Do you remember whether he communicated what you told him about where you were going to anybody outside the Bridgehead or outside the building or anywhere else?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. You say that Chris Dorgu was on comms. That, I assume, means he had a radio. What else?
That means Barry.
Means Barry.
I believed that, but I've since found out that he didn't have comms.
Okay. When you did your statement, why did you think that he had comms?
Because when we was up on the 20th floor, I remember Chris was trying to send messages back to the Bridgehead. And I thought he was doing that via his Barry set, but I've since found out he was doing it by his handheld radio.
Okay. Did you have comms? Did you have a handheld radio?
I had a handheld radio.
Did you have a Barry?
No.
What about crew manager secret?
No.
No Barry. What about a handheld radio?
Yes.
Right. So, You then say, we handed in our tallies and made our way to the second lift. They were carrying a length of hose each and a branch between them. Were you carrying anything?
No.
Were you aware, at the point you left the Bridgehead to go up into the building to the 20th floor, of a fire survival guidance call coming in for a 12-year-old girl?
No.
Now, Mr. Secret says in his statement, and I'm going to ask you, we've been going for 45 minutes, so before I move on to these questions, would you like a break?
I'm fine.
You're fine? Okay. Thank you.
Can I suggest we have a break in any event about 3 o'clock if we're
Certainly.
still going?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, no problem at all. Now, Mr. Secret, crew manager Secret, says in his statement, and I always say any witness that anything anybody else says in their statements, we will be exploring with them in their evidence when they come, if we can, that he knew that a fire survival guidance call had come or was in progress for a 12-year-old girl stuck on the 20th floor. Did he discuss that with you?
No. That's the first time I've heard that.
Okay. He says that he and firefighter Dorgu took that call and that you were there and said that someone had given you the keys to the to the flat with the 12-year-old girl in on the 20th floor. So do you remember anything about firefighter Dorgu and crew manager Secret taking a fire survival guidance call?
If they did, it would have been before I had got to them.
So I think are you saying you didn't know about that?
No.
Okay, all right. He says that he told watch manager O'Keefe that all three of you were going to the 20th floor. That's what he says about who was, I think, in charge of the Bridgehead. Does that trigger a recollection for you?
No.
Okay. So is it right? Your clear understanding is that the floor you were going to was the 20th floor?
20th floor, flat 176.
Did anybody ever suggest to you at that stage, I say ever, did anybody tell you at that stage that the floor she was on was the 23rd floor?
No.
Were you told that Jessica was connected to the 999 operator at that point? If you had been told not to go to the 20th floor, but to go to the 23rd floor, what would you have done?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, if you had been told that Jessica was in flat 205 on the 23rd floor, what would you have done?
Would have gone up to 205.
Mr. Chairman, I do think we may take a slightly earlier break than 3 o'clock.
Yes, let's do that. We probably ought to have a slightly longer break in any event about now. If we took 15 minutes with that.
That'd be perfect.
All right? Okay. That's all right, Mr. Badillo. It's really difficult for you. I quite understand that. And when you feel ready, you go with the usher and she'll take you out to the retiring room. But there's no rush. you want to go? Yeah. All right, well done. Right, we'll break and resume at 3:05, please. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Chairman, before the witness rejoins us, can I just make a correction to the transcript, which needs to be made as a result of an error I made in the last question, or series of questions at currently lines 15 to 25 of what is currently being shown as page 147 of the transcript. I referred firefighter Badillo to flat 205. What I meant to do was to refer him to flat 201. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, if I can ask the transcribers to correct the transcript and read the question in that light. I don't want to have to put the question again to the witness. I would ordinarily do so, but given his situation, I don't think it's fair.
Yes. No, well, I think the transcript can be corrected on that basis. Thank you.
I'm very grateful if we can then have the witness back, please.
Yes. All right, Mr. Badillo, you content to carry on?
Yes.
Good. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Willett.
Mr. Badillo, thank you for coming back. I'm going to ask you some questions about your trip to the 20th floor and back again. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. On your way up from the Bridgehead to the 20th floor, you describe how the lift opened at the 8th floor. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Can you describe for us what happened?
Same thing that happened on the 15th. The lift filled with smoke. I don't know whether it was because I was wearing breathing apparatus, but it didn't feel like as much of a shock to me. You know, I wasn't as.
Yes.
But that could have been because I could breathe with my breathing apparatus on.
Do you know why the lift opened at the 8th floor?
No.
Now, firefighter Dorgu says it was the 8th floor, like you do. Firefighter Secret says it was the 6th floor. Can you comment on the difference between you?
No.
Do you know how quickly the lift doors shut again after you saw the smoke?
We got out of the lift.
You got out of the lift?
Yes.
And you got into the 8th floor lobby, did you?
Yes.
Can you describe the smoke in the 8th floor lobby for us? You say in your statement it was full of smoke in the 7th line on page 7. Perhaps we can just see it. 7th line, page 7. You say the lobby was compromised and full of smoke. Could you describe the smoke for us?
From what I remember, it was full of smoke, but there was still some visibility. I didn't have to search around to get out of that lobby.
And what colour was the smoke? Do you remember? No. Did you... Sorry.
I'm not sure. Can't remember, but it wasn't as dark as when I went up on the 15th.
And did any of you, that's you, firefighter Dorgu, or crew manager Secret, did either or any of you radio down about what the conditions were that you'd seen on the 8th floor lobby?
No, I know I didn't. I can't remember if the other two did.
Okay. And what about heat? Did you experience any particular heat in the lobby on the 8th floor?
Not really, no.
Not really. Did you see any fire there?
No.
Did you yourself have any thoughts about whether you should knock on any of the doors of the flats of the 8th floor and alert the occupants?
Not at that time, no. When you're given a task as a firefighter, that's what you do. I know I gave myself the task, but
Right.
that's what I was doing.
Now you say you made your way to the stairwell You say 8 lines down from the top, maybe 9 lines. There wasn't any noise, but as we were talking, it wasn't so eerily quiet. Crew manager Secret decided that we would take the stairs, and we made our way to the stairwell, which was full of wispy smoke, but it wasn't too hot. And then you say, I had a bit of an adrenaline rush and got to the 20th floor before the others, who were a couple of floors behind. Can you describe, and it may be difficult because you were going up perhaps more quickly than they were. First of all, were you running up the stairs?
Probably a jog, yeah.
A jog. Can you explain or describe to the chairman and everybody here what it must be like jogging upstairs in BA kit?
Quite difficult, but like I said, at the time I was focused on getting to Jessica, especially after I'd seen the outside of the building, and I just wanted to get up there as quick as I could.
Okay. Could you give us an idea of what a standard duration breathing apparatus pack weighs?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. 20 kilograms, is it?
It's about 15 kilograms, I'm told. Would that be about right?
Yeah.
Okay. And on your journey up the building from the 8th to the 20th floor in the stairwell, can you describe the conditions of the air in the stairwell as you went up?
From what I remember, it was getting thicker the further we went up the tower.
What the smoke was?
Yes.
And it's thicker. And what about the visibility? Was that getting more difficult?
On the stairwell, I can remember visibility was okay.
Right.
Up to the 20th, because when I got up to the 20th, I looked into the lobby, which was no visibility at all. So it was different.
Yeah.
So.
Could you tell me how easy it was to keep count of the floor numbers as you went on up? I don't think I was counting. If you weren't counting, how would you know when you got to the 20th floor?
Some of the floors were written in stencils, and I also remember thinking it's really strange. Some were just scribbled in felt tip pen, like they had been scribbled by the residents.
Really? Scribbled by?
Yeah. That's a vivid memory I had, and a newly refurbished building, and they haven't even got floor numbers written on the floors. Some of them.
Were there floors where there was no number? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I vividly remember some scribbled floor numbers.
Did you... Well, no, I can do this. If you look at your statement, I can do this by reference to your statement. You say, about a third of the way down the page 7, I was able to identify the 20th floor, but I cannot remember if the floor number was stenciled on or written on the wall in felt tip, as this varied between the floors. And you've given evidence about that. And then you say, whilst waiting, I had a quick look inside the 20th floor lobby by opening the door, but it was filled with smoke, so closed it again so as not to compromise the stairwell. The stairwell wasn't brightly lit, but we were able to see each other. And then you say, we did not pass anyone between the 8th and the 20th floor. When you say you didn't pass anyone on the way up from the 8th to the 20th floor, did that include firefighters?
Yes.
So is it right then your recollection is that the stairwell was completely empty of people?
Yes.
On your journey? Did you have any thoughts about what might be happening to the occupants on those higher floors?
At that moment in time, like I've said, I was focused on getting to flat 176 to get the little girl out.
Did you, maybe that you've already answered this, but did you check in any of the lobbies on the way up to see if...
No, my focus was to get up to flat 76 as fast as I could.
Did you form an impression of how well the stair doors were doing to keep smoke out of the stairwell at that point?
I didn't think about that at the time, no.
Okay. When you got to the 20th floor, did you have any impression about what the heat was like?
Mr. Badillo, are you comfortable answering questions at the moment?
Yes.
Can I just repeat the question? When you got to the 20th floor, do you remember having any thoughts about what the heat was like there?
It didn't feel that hot at the time. It felt warm. The fact that I just ran up quite a few flights of stairs with my fire gear and breathing apparatus on, I was hot.
Oh yeah, yes. But it was
But
warm,
it wasn't radiated heat, so it didn't feel...
Okay. And then I think you say, in summarising it, the others came up behind you, Dorgu in secret, and then you went into the lobby.
Yes.
And you describe the lobby halfway down the page. You say, we entered, we just had that up on the screen, halfway down page 7. We entered the 20th floor, and the smoke was so thick I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. How could you move around the lobby if you couldn't see?
By feel.
By feel. Did you have a torch?
Yes.
Did you use it?
Yes.
What was that like? Did it help?
Just could see a light in the smoke.
How far did the light...
So it was sort of making the black smoke in front, what you was looking at, making it a bit lighter. But
right. Okay. And what about heat in the lobby? What was that like?
At that time, it wasn't too hot, as I remember.
And then you describe in the rest of that paragraph on page 7 your entry into flat 176. Who went in first? Do you remember?
I think I did.
You think you did?
It would be me or crew manager secret.
You say, just before the paragraph break, near the foot of the page, page 7, inside the flat, visibility was low to hardly anything. It was smoke-logged completely, and I'm unsure if any lights were on. It was hot inside the flat, but it didn't feel like there was a fire inside. Can you describe how you went about searching each room?
Yeah, we I took the right-hand wall. It's a procedure we use. If you can't see anything, you stick to a wall. So if anything happens, you follow that wall back out. And once you get to a door, you search that compartment.
Right.
And then you come out, stick into the right-hand wall, and you go to the next compartment.
Okay.
Until you've searched everywhere.
And in the last paragraph, you say, in the second room I reached, I could see an orange curtain of flames at the window, but they appeared to still be on the outside. Now, I just want to understand what the second room is. So you go through, just see if we can walk this together. You go through the front door of the flat, and this is 176, so it's immediately above, some floors above flat 16.
Yes.
And there's is this right, a room immediately in front of you, and then you go down round the corridor to the right? What do you remember?
I really, you get so disorientated when you imagine you've got your eyes shut and you're searching a flat.
Okay.
I'm not even 100% certain it was the second room I entered into, but I know I entered into a room. It was a bigger room with a big window, and the whole window was an orange flame on the outside.
Right. Do you remember from having gone into that room that the windows were on two sides of the room or on one side of the room only?
I don't remember.
Okay. And what were the conditions like inside the room?
It was starting to warm up. It was starting to get hot.
Was there any fire inside that room?
No, not at that time, no.
What about the smoke inside that room?
There was smoke, yes.
Was there much smoke?
Yes, a lot of smoke.
Right. Do you think that at that point the fire on the outside had broken into that flat at that point when you were in there?
I don't believe so.
You then say in the next sentence, it was very strange seeing it as I've never seen anything like that before on the outside. When you say seeing it, what are you describing?
Being on the 20th floor of a tower block and seeing an orange flame on the outside of the window.
Yeah. And then you say 2 bedrooms were found next, and I searched one room while Chris searched the other concurrently. This may be a silly question, but what made you think it was a bedroom?
There was a bed in there.
I thought it was a silly question, but it's a clear answer. Thank you. And you then say you swapped over in the next sentence. On the next page, 2 lines down, you say Chris suggested that we swap over just to be completely sure. Well, you were shouting out the whole time. Did you see any fire at the windows of the other rooms you searched?
No.
And then you describe how you came out of the flat. You returned to the lobby area. It's 7 lines down from the top of page 8. And you say, we returned to the lobby area where Chris Dorgu was, and he tried to send a message with an update, but there were no comms. Did you see him try and send that message?
No.
You didn't see him?
Heard him.
You heard him trying to send a message?
Yes, we couldn't see each other, couldn't see anything.
And when you say there were no comms,
As in the radios weren't transmitting.
So
there was no response from any radios. There was no noise on the radios. So.
Okay. You say no noise.
As in there was no messages being sent. So you would expect heavy radio traffic.
Right. Could you hear anything from the radios?
Nothing at all.
Okay. Did you or anybody else in your group, Secret or Dorgu, search anywhere else on the 20th floor?
After we came out of the flat, Chris Secret's warning whistle went off, which goes off at about 70 bar. You're meant to be out of the dangerous situation by that stage, and we was on the 20th floor. with fire all around us, so we needed to get him out.
How soon after leaving flat 176 did the warning whistle go off?
I can't be certain, but it might have even gone off when we was inside the flat.
And
I'm not sure.
In your statement, you say, again, it's page 8, about 3 or 4 lines up from the paragraph break. You say, Chris Secret's warning whistle went off, and we knew we had to get out, as he only had 60 to 70 bar left. I did a gauge check and think I had about 100 bar remaining. And then you talk about policy, and at the end you say it felt like we were trapped. At that moment, when you say you felt like you were trapped, where were you? Were you still in flat 176, or had you come out onto the lobby?
No, we was in the lobby.
You were in the lobby. How long had you been in the lobby for when you realised you only had you realised you had about 100 bar remaining?
I'm not sure. I believe it was the same sort of time that Chris was trying to get hold of someone, trying to send a radio signals.
Did you have a discussion with Chris or either Chris, I suppose, Secret or Dorgu, about looking for other residents in other flats on floor 20?
At that stage, like I said, Chris Secret's warning whistle was going off. He had a limited time to actually get out of that building before his air completely ran out. So we was in a dangerous situation, and it was more like we had to get him out of the building.
You had to get him out of the building. And what about Chris Dorgu? What was his air situation like?
I don't know.
Okay. Would it have been possible, or was it possible, let me put it this way, was it possible for Chris Dorgu to look for other people on that floor?
When you are in a BA team, you stay together. Policy is you stay together. If I had taken Chris out, crew manager Secret out, then firefighter Dorgu is then left on his own, and we never do that.
Then you say halfway down page 8 at the break, it was decided that we would leave, and I started to lead the way out. I found a door, but when I opened it, I realised that it was in fact the bin chute. This area was free from smoke, and the door seemed more solid and newer than that on the actual main door to the floor. Can you describe the heat inside the bin chute? What it was like?
I don't remember. I just have this memory of being able to see inside the bin chute. It was really strange. We're up on the 20th floor in nothing at all, and then we went inside, and it was sort of we found the door. It wasn't completely clear of smoke, but you could all of a sudden, as you got close to it, you could see, and as you went inside, you could make out things inside there. It was a clearer atmosphere than in the lobby area.
Yes. Thank you. Now, you say in the same part of your statement, the same page, I managed to lead us back into the stairwell, and as we got a few flights down, I suggested we leave the hoses in situ, as carrying them was slowing us down. We left them by the wall so as not to block the stairs, I think on the 18th floor. The heat was much more intense, and the stairwell was completely smoke-filled, so visibility was really poor. Just unpacking that a little bit, when you got out from the lobby on the 20th floor into the stairwell on the 20th floor, what were the air conditions like in the stairwell?
When we first got out of the 20th floor, I remember being able to see more than in the actual lobby area. But as soon as we started going down, conditions got worse, started getting much hotter, and we couldn't see a thing.
are you able to help me with this comparison? Comparing the air, the clarity of the air inside the bin chute with the clarity of the air in the stairwell immediately outside the stair door at level 20. Which was the clearer? Which air was clearer?
I would say it was probably about the same.
Okay.
There was smoke, but you could still... I could see if one of the Chris's was close to me, I could see him.
Had the conditions in the stair at level 20 changed from when you left the stair to go into level 20 lift lobby?
Yes.
From when you came back out? How had they changed?
They'd got worsened. Much hotter and much less visibility.
Right.
They'd changed quite a lot.
Right. And you say that you left the hoses in situ by the wall so as not to block the stairs, you think on the 18th floor. When you say by the wall, was it the wall on the staircase itself or on the landing?
On the landing.
On the landing, okay.
They come in a roll, so they're flat, and we push them up against the wall, so they're literally flat against the wall.
Okay. Did you think that would block the passage of any later firefighters coming back up?
The reason why we pushed them up against the wall was to make sure that didn't happen.
Right. And as you went down the stairs from the 20th floor, I think you say the smoke got thicker and the conditions got hotter. Is that right?
Yes.
And what about traffic on the stairs? Did you, as you went down, did you meet any firefighters coming up?
No.
Did you meet any residents coming down?
No.
Now, I just want to ask you something you mentioned yourself before the break about meeting firefighter Murphy on the 7th floor at about 2 o'clock. Just try and help me with the timing of that. Was that on the same journey down from the 20th floor, or was that on a different occasion?
Same journey.
Same journey.
Yes.
So could you just talk me through what happens when you get to the 7th floor? First of all, how do you know you're at the 7th floor when you meet firefighter Murphy?
I saw firefighter Murphy. I kind of recognised his silhouette as I got close. There was other firefighters there. He asked me what floor we was on, and I got my torch out, pointed it to where I knew the numbers were, and pulled him over and showed him, and that's when I knew it was the 7th floor.
Was he on his way up?
Yes.
Do you know what he was on the way up to do?
No.
Okay. How long did you spend having a conversation with him?
Seconds.
Okay. Was he with anybody else?
Yes.
Who was that?
I don't know.
Okay. How many people?
There was quite a few people on the stairwell at that stage. The stairs were very tight, and you had to put your BA sets against the wall and let the crews go past you. It was it was tight.
So at what point on your journey down from the 20th floor did you start to encounter firefighters coming up?
I believe it was around the 7th floor.
Okay. And below the 7th floor, could you describe the traffic on the stairs in terms of firefighters?
There was firefighters going up.
Okay. Many or few?
Yeah,
Many.
quite a few.
And from the 7th floor downwards, what about residents or occupants, traffic, evacuating the building? Did you see anybody going out?
I can't remember seeing residents, but the conditions were that they could have been residents, they could have been firefighters. It was only when I got literally face to face that I realised it was a firefighter, and it was firefighter Murphy. So, yeah.
On your journey from the 20th floor downwards to the Bridgehead at that time, were there any particular floors you remember which were hotter than other floors?
I wasn't counting the floors on the way down, so there's no way of me knowing.
Right. Were there any patches or parts of the building, the staircase in the building, which you went through, which you remember noting were hotter than other parts?
As we started going down, I just remember it getting hotter and hotter. I mean, really hot.
Did there come a point when it stopped being hotter, or did it stay hotter and hotter all the way down to the bridgehead?
I'm not sure. I know when we got down to the bridgehead, it wasn't as hot because we all collapsed in the lift lobby area and just lied there for a little while.
I'm just going to turn to a few questions about the bridgehead. Are you okay to carry on, or would you like
Yes.
a break? There's not that much to go now, so let's just see where we go. So at the bridgehead, you get back, and do you reach the bridgehead together with firefighter Dorgu and crew manager Secret?
Yes.
And can you explain what happened when you reached the bridgehead?
I don't really remember anything from after seeing firefighter Murphy, and the next thing I sort of remember is coming to in the lift lobby, lying down. I've got a bit of a blank between there.
Okay, you've got a bit of a blank. You say in your statement at the bottom of page 8, if we can just have a look at it, something about heat stress. I just want to see if I can get just a bit more detail about that. 6 lines up from the bottom of page 8, you say, and I'm not sure whether this is at the bridgehead, it isn't, I don't think, but you say the temperature was getting hotter, heat stress makes you sweat lots, makes you confused and brings on a headache. Do you think you had that?
Most definitely, yeah.
Did you have it, do you think, when you got to the bridgehead?
Like I said, I've got a blank from about the 7th floor, and the next thing I knew, I was coming round in the lift lobby, just lying down on the floor.
Right. Okay. And do you remember what? Maybe you don't, but do you remember what the bridgehead was like at that point in terms of conditions?
Sorry, I don't.
Okay. And on page 9, if you look at it, you describe how you come out of the tower. Onto a grass verge. There's 7 lines down from the top. And then 4 lines down from that, you say, I remember looking up at the tower and thinking that we weren't going to stop the fire and lots of people were going to be killed. By now the fire had reached the top of the tower and there was all sorts of crap falling off it. It looked as though the building was falling apart. The cladding was coming down with other bits of the building and the wind was also catching it. At that point when you saw that, do you think the fire spread had gone beyond the east facade around to one of the other faces? You remember?
I could only see the east facade, so I didn't know. I know it wasn't at the front of the building.
You say, I remember looking up and thinking that we weren't going to stop the fire and lots of people were going to be killed. Did you share those thoughts with anybody?
It was something the people who were there were saying, yeah, the fire was out of control by that stage. And
by that stage, this is the point when you come out of the tower onto the grassy verge, look up. Do you remember who was in overall command?
No.
On the incident ground? You don't?
No.
And then at the bottom of page 9, you then describe how you start to run casualties, and you describe that in some detail. Were the casualties that you were helping, well, perhaps I should just ask you first, are you okay to give a little bit of evidence about this?
Yes.
Okay. Were the casualties that you were helping, were they walking casualties?
No.
Okay. And where were you taking them from? Where in the building? Or where geographically were you taking them from?
Some I was going into the lobby and taking them out of the lobby. Some, as I was coming back, they was out of the tower. So it was different stages. Depends how far I got before the next one came out.
This sounds like a bit of a lawyer's question, I'm afraid, but I'll ask it anyway. Were you making any kind of record of who they were and where they'd come from?
No. I was working with the paramedics at that time. They just asked some people for help, so I jumped in and started running back and forwards with them.
Right. At page 10 at the bottom of your statement, you describe how you helped a firefighter from Chelsea with a turntable ladder. Do you remember doing that?
Yes.
Can you explain where the turntable ladder was at that time?
Yeah, it was on the eastern side of the building.
Right. Was that the first turntable ladder to arrive? Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
You may not
I was
know.
in the building at that stage.
Do you know where the turntable ladder had come from?
No.
You say the firefighter had an issue. You say he had a turntable ladder and there was a lack of water pressure, so not enough water was coming out. Did you observe that for yourself, or is that something that the firefighter...
Yes, I did, yes.
What did you see?
It was... They have a monitor on the turntable ladder, and it was... there was not enough pressure for the water to be hitting the building. You need a lot of water going through to use a monitor.
Right. And you say not enough for the water to be hitting the building, so it wasn't... What was happening when you opened the throttle on the monitor?
It was just not reaching the building.
How far away, well, how far could you shoot water?
It wasn't me shooting the water. The monitor is... I'd say it was maybe 20, 30 metres away from the building.
And how far at that time, could you get the water from the monitor?
Not very far.
Feet? Inches? I don't want to suggest a distance to you.
It was...
What do you remember?
It was literally coming out and just...
Flopping down?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing with your hand. Okay. All right. And was the problem of pressure solved by doing what you say in your statement, which is tying the hose reel onto the platform? Did that help?
It got water onto the tower, but it doesn't have the effect. It's a hose reel which doesn't put much water on it compared to a monitor.
How big is the hose on the hose reel? What's the diameter?
Not very big, like 30 mil or something.
Right, so smaller than the hoses that you would plug into a dry
Yeah,
riser.
I think it's like 23 mil.
Okay. And this creation of deciding to tie the hose reel onto the platform, is that a standard approach you take on a fireground, or is it something you and he pulled together on the night?
The second one.
Right. And you say it got some water onto the fire. If you look at it a bit lower down, you say the water was then turned on and the turntable ladder sent up. This seemed to sort out the problem and get some water onto the fire. How high up could
when I say in the statement it says sorted out, it didn't sort out the problem. It just got some water on the fire.
Okay.
Nowhere near as much as if we had pressure to use the monitor.
Right. And how high up the building could you get some water with the use of the turntable ladder contraption that you put together?
I don't remember. I helped him tie it on, and then I ran off to do something else.
Do you remember which hydrant the monitor had been plugged into that was not providing sufficient pressure?
No.
You describe at the bottom of page 10, once you've done that job, you say, I saw another firefighter who looked a bit troubled. I asked him what was wrong, and he said that he had an aerial appliance which was stuck out on the road as he couldn't get it close enough to the tower. Can you remember which road he was stuck on?
He was stuck, I believe it was around by St Anne's Road, maybe Bramley.
How far from...
Right next to Latimer Road tube station.
Okay. And where was he in relation to the tower when you saw him and had that conversation with him?
I believe he was on Grenfell Road.
Right. And what was he doing?
Looking for somewhere to somehow try and get his aerial closer to the tower.
Right. So I think what happened next is that you went to Bramley Road with him, did you?
Yes.
And then you turned into Silchester Road?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think you go on to say you couldn't get past the bollards. If you go to the top of page 11, you say this, and the second line, the building of this new school had caused access issues, and our access was restricted due to bollards and lots of people. I left the engine with the driver on the grass verge by the school, which wasn't a good enough placement for what the engine was needed for. I'm unsure if it ever managed to get any closer. Just want to ask you about the building of this new school causing access issues. You've been at North Kensington a long time.
Yes.
Do you remember if the access to the tower was better for fire before the school was built?
Yes.
How was that?
Before, as a firefighter, I used to work in the sports centre next to the tower, and they used to have football pitches right next to the tower.
Right.
And all the access was clear.
Okay.
There was there was how can I put it? A lot of discussion about the building of the school, from what I know.
From what you know, were you ever yourself party to a discussion about the building of the school from a fire safety point of view?
No.
Right. And then you go on to say, and our access was restricted due to bollards. The bollards, these were different bollards from the one that Charlie Batterby removed. Where were these bollards?
They were, as you get to the corner of Silchester and Lancaster Road, you do a right, and it's between the school and the swimming pool.
Okay. And were these bollards adjustable or removable, or were they fixed?
I believe they were not. You couldn't move them. They were fixed.
Okay. If you could just look at page 12 at the bottom, you offer some views about how things might have been better, but I just want to ask you about one. You say at the very end of the main paragraph on page 12, I also feel that radio communications failed and should have been working within that building. Could you summarise your personal experience of the effectiveness of radio communications throughout that night?
Just they didn't work. They just completely failed. And one of the firefighters what firefighters rely on is communication to do the job properly.
Did you take up with a senior commanding officer your problem with the communications and ask him to see if he could sort it out?
After
At any point in the night?
my personal, well, the problems I had with radio communications was when I was in that building. Afterwards, I didn't. I wasn't using the radio as much. So after I came out of the building, no, I didn't.
Do you know from your own knowledge on the night whether anybody in attendance tried to improve or sort out the communications difficulties that you yourself experienced?
Not that I know of, no.
Mr. Badillo, I've got literally 2 or 3 questions left. Are you okay
Yes.
for me to ask them? On page 10, if I can just go back. This is where you're telling us about your experience of running casualties and helping out with casualties. You say a third of the way down, I saw a man in the road. You can just see that. I saw a man in the road but wasn't sure where he had come from, and he had obviously been moved, but I thought he might have been unconscious. And then you go on to say, he'd been on his back, the paramedic I was with, and I went over to him and started to put him on the trolley when a doctor came over to him and said, leave him, as he was a jumper. We put him on the trolley anyhow, and he was moved. I covered his face with a sheet so that he could have some dignity, and the doctor called his time of death. All of the man's bones were shattered, and he had soiled himself. He was an Arabic-looking and of average build. I have 2 questions for you. 3 questions. First of all, can you assist further with the time that you saw this?
I wish I could. I don't really have a timeline for any of that night. I was doing so much stuff.
When you say he had obviously already been moved, why do you say that?
I think that was more knowing that when the paramedic or the doctor told me that he had jumped from the tower, I took that he hadn't. I don't want to offend anyone but I took it that he hadn't landed there.
I understand. And finally, you say that he was in the road. I saw a man in the road. Can you help further with identifying the location? Which road are you talking about?
It was on the Grenfell Road. It was underneath the walkway.
To the south of the tower?
So quite close to the tower. But sort of where Golf 271 was parked. If you start walking up towards Grenfell Road, and as you start going around the corner, it was around on that corner.
Right. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Badillo, I want to say thank you very much for coming and giving your evidence. I have no further questions for you, but there may be 1 or 2 others which I get asked to ask you. Mr. Chairman, might I take a very short break, but ask you to ask the witness not to leave us while I harvest any further questions.
Well, can he not
from
leave the
anybody
witness box?
He may, yes, absolutely, of course. Of course.
Yes. I'm sorry that you can't finish just for the moment, because it may be there are one or two questions which others are interested in having Mr. Millid ask you. So we'll take a short break, but I mean short, 5
Very
minutes.
short.
And give you time to catch your breath. And then we'll come back and we'll see where we are then. Is that all right?
Okay. Thank you.
Will you go with the usher now? 4:05, please.
please.
Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Chairman,
To be absolutely candid, things are slightly unresolved about a particular question from a particular core participant. And rather than keeping the witness, what I'd like to do is release the witness, if I may, but continue my discussions with a particular core participant to see if the information can be obtained in a different way.
Well, my understanding
not
is that
today.
the witness is willing to answer further questions, although I don't think he expects to be asked more than one or two, literally one or two. So if you want to ask him, we'll have him back and ask him. I'd like him to come back in any event for other reasons.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll be guided by you. I think I probably need, in fairness, to hear from Mr. Walsh as to whether this is a wise thing given the witness's condition.
Mr. Walsh, do you want to say something? Because you've been on the edge of your seat all afternoon.
I have been, sir, and I don't know whether you would like to address it from it.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Sir, I have to say that, as we made very clear in our opening statement, and it's been repeatedly confirmed, the firefighters who give evidence are and have been themselves profoundly affected by their experiences. That much we all know. Some are more able than others to give evidence, but even those who apparently seem all right to give evidence are already profoundly affected and are traumatized. And it is the act of giving evidence, which is itself, apart from that which occurred on the night, which can exacerbate or create further problems. Now, in relation to this witness, he has, as others have, done his best to answer many, many questions.
Yes.
But in relation to things which, I will give an example if I may.
Well, I wasn't inviting you to make a speech. I'm just inviting you to tell me what you're inviting me to do now.
This witness has experienced difficulties today, but he's done very well. At the last break, when he went out, so you will recall, there was a question whether he would be in a position to come back and answer questions. He bravely said that he would, on the basis that one was talking about the conditions within the town. But we're now talking about a number of other questions. And the question which is to be asked is one which can be answered, but it can be answered, I suspect, in one word, and may well be able to be answered in the way that Mr. Millett suggests. The BSR lawyer who suggested is willing for that to be done rather than having to come back.
Well, he's been a very succinct witness. He's answered an awful lot of questions in one word, and that's been all to the good.
Yes.
So are you suggesting we shouldn't ask him this further question?
I'm just suggesting that certain questions can be traumatic, and I'm just trying to avoid yet further trauma. So if it can be resolved in the way Mr. Millett suggests, all well and good. If it cannot, then, sir, of course, I'm in your hands, but it will be a very, very short answer.
Yes, well, that may be, but at least we'll have had his answer to the question. And
Very
if he's willing to, willing in the sense of feeling that he can cope with answering another question, then I think it would be right to ask him, and we'll see what he says. All right? All right. Thank you very much. Yes. Could you invite Mr. Badillo to come back in, please? Thank you, Mr. Badillo. I'm sorry to have you in and out of the hearing in this manner, but I understand there is one further question which Mr. Millett has been asked to put to you. If it's more than one, he'll have to explain to me why. So I think it is only going to be one. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Chairman, it is one. I'm going to try and make it one. but there is some context to it, which I just need to show you based on your statement. Could you please be shown page 7 of your statement? And in the middle of the page, this is where you've arrived on the 20th floor. You say, flat 16 has been to the right of the lobby door. I'm just going to show you the passage first. So I guessed that flat 176 would be to the right too. I found what I thought was flat 176, but had to use my torch and put my face right up close to the door. I moved on to the next door and saw that it was 175, so returned to 176, satisfied that it was the correct flat. And my question is, did you knock on the door or shout to anybody who might be inside flat 175? That's my question. Yes, it is.
Mr. Badillo, that is the question, and you've given us your answer, and we're very grateful to you.
Can I just say...
yes, of course.
To the family of the people in flat 175, I was looking for another girl. I didn't know there was anyone in there.
That's all right.
Thank you. Firefighter Badillo, thank you very much for coming back to tell us that and to share that with the family. And I'm very grateful to you for doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Badillo, before you leave the witness box, can I just thank you very much on behalf of myself and everyone involved in the inquiry for coming to give your evidence. I can tell that it's taken a great deal of courage and determination on your part, and also a strong sense of public duty, and we really are very grateful. And I'd like you to know that the evidence you've given about the conditions in the tower at various points in the building and at various times is going to be very useful. So thank you very much indeed. All right? So would you like to go now with the usher?
Well, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the business of a long and sometimes difficult week. I'm grateful to you, Mr. Chairman, for all of that. We start again, I think, at 9:30 on Monday morning with the next witness.
Is it 9:30 again?
I'm sorry. Oral amendment application. No, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Right.
Yes. Well, thank you all very much. 10 o'clock on Monday then, please. Thank you.